So I made this video about Henry Cavill not getting the job as Superman. James Gunn and Peter Safran are rebooting the whole DC universe, cinematic universe, and that's probably for the best. Although it's kind of sad that people like Cavill are getting booted out because he's the perfect Superman, just like he's the perfect Geralt of Rivia, and he's out of the Witcher franchise also. In this video, I kind of discussed whether or not I thought he'd be back, and I said that due to creative differences and whatnot, I don't think he's going to be back. I also said, and I'll say it again, if he did go back, they should just give it to him. Make him the showrunner and the star of the Witcher universe. And ironically, right after I made this video, the news dropped that he is being put in charge of a cinematic universe. It's just not going to be The Witcher. It's going to be Warhammer 40,000. So that's really cool, actually. There's a reason that we've seen him visiting Games Workshop and looking at the minis and hanging out with the people there. It's because he's partnering with Vertigo Entertainment and Amazon, of all places, for this Warhammer 40,000 cinematic universe where he's going to executive produce and star. And this is crazy cool news because this has never been done before. And even though I'm very skeptical about Amazon, I do have a lot of faith in Cavill himself. Here's what he says on Instagram. He says, "For 30 years, I have dreamt of seeing a Warhammer universe in live action. Now, after 22 years of experience in this industry, I finally feel that I have the skill set and experience to guide a Warhammer cinematic universe into life. Partnering with Natalie Viscuso at Vertigo has been a blessing beyond words. Without her, we might not have found the perfect home at Amazon, and having a home like Amazon will give us the freedom to be true to the massive scope of Warhammer. To all of you Warhammer fans out there, I promise to respect this IP that we love. I promise to bring you something familiar, and I endeavor to bring you something fantastic that is, as of yet, unseen. Our first steps are to find our filmmaker, creator, writer. Watch this space, my friends, for the Emperor." Now, I love this. I love this because so rarely do we see in this long parade of adaptations, so rarely do we see someone take the time to actually say, I promise to the fans to give you something familiar. I promise to respect this IP. And he means it, right? If Cavill had been in charge of The Witcher, we would have had a very, very different show, especially in season 2. Season 1, I think, was much more faithful to the books. And I think he would have stuck around. But I do think that this Warhammer business, which has clearly been going on for a while, definitely influenced his decision to leave that behind. Because now he's going to be one of the guys in charge making the decisions. And that is good news for fans. And honestly, I think maybe this will be... Now, I could be way too optimistic here, and I could be getting ahead of myself, but maybe this will be a tipping point. Maybe this will be a moment when fandom strikes back. And, I have my criticisms of the fandom. Of course, people can be crazy. Fans can be crazy. Fanatics, right? But look, this is what's happened. In our noble quest to make these things more accessible and to bring more people into the fold, like we've wanted to for so long, right? All of us have been playing D&D and geeking out on shit like Willow and Lord of the Rings and all this stuff for so long. We've wanted to bring more people in. Like I always, every girlfriend I ever have, I'm always like, well, come play D&D with me and play video games with me. And it's like the furthest thing from my mind is like, let's keep women out of games. No, most people would love it if more girls played games with them. Most people would love it if there was more people in the fandom. It just means more stuff to geek out on. And here's the problem. In this noble quest, somehow these narcissistic assholes got in charge and decided that they could hide behind the cover of social justice and go in and bully everybody and change everything to fit their particular narrow-minded agenda, which I don't believe for a second is about being more welcoming and tolerant. You want more welcoming and tolerant? Just make more stuff. Make more stories. You don't have to go and change The Lord of the Rings to be woke and to fit all your politics. You can still make Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Everyone's welcome to it. And you can make other stories. Lots of stories. Make, like I've always said, let's get that high budget African fantasy show out there. Let's do let's have stuff let's wild stuff, crazy shit. There's so much in the realms of science fiction, fantasy, comic books. There is the endless supply of amazing stories for all cultures, from all cultures. And yet, somehow, bit by bit, these adaptations, these changes have been chipping away. Really, they've been chipping away at the identity and the uniqueness of these things that we love, right? So instead of adapting faithfully to the IPs that we love, the stories that we love, they've been changed to fit the agendas and the belief systems of the writers and producers who are making them. And somehow these are not usually fans, and they don't seem to respect the actual source material. Now, I don't think you have to be a fan to respect the source material either. I think it's really important to look at something like Andor and Tony Gilroy, who was not a Star Wars fan and who specifically did not bring in people who were Star Wars fans to make that show. But clearly, he wanted to respect the source material. He just didn't want to bow down at the altar of the source material. And see, that's the difference. Like, this is what makes Andor so good. You never hear the Star Wars themes. Not really. Barely. People don't yabber on about the Force. You don't have, Skywalkers being shoved down your throat left and right. And yet, it feels and looks like Star Wars. More like Star Wars than most of the Disney-era Star Wars stuff, because it pays such close attention to detail. There's such respect for the Star Wars universe without having to just constantly throw in fan service and pay homage to what's come before. Andor tells its own story, and it does it very well. And I think, again, instead of worrying about agendas, even though there are politics in Andor, there's this whole story of freedom and anti-tyranny and all that. But instead of the politics of the day, they lean on solid writing. Now, it's also great to have fans like Cavill on board of something like Warhammer 40,000 or The Witcher, because they have immense respect for the source material and they want to bring that to life in a way that will please fans. Again, I don't think that fans need to be to have one-to-one translations of like a book to a film. But if you're going to respect the source material, then that will come through in the adaptation. If you're going to respect the source material like Warhammer 40,000, which is of course a miniatures game, though there are many books written about it and whatnot, you have to respect the aesthetic, the themes, the stories, and bring those to life in a way that feels true to the fandom that made it popular in the first place. All the people that have spent thousands of dollars on these miniatures and paints and terrain and all the rest. When I was young and had no money, I was so jealous of people who could afford that stuff. It's not cheap. I had minis, but I couldn't afford many sets. So, anyways, it's just a great news. And there's been such disappointments with Superman and The Witcher. That it's great to have something really exciting and unexpected pop up like this. I had no inkling that there was a Warhammer 40,000 show in the works. I think that because of Cavill's star power and knowledge of this IP, I think Amazon is going to take a pretty open approach. I get the feeling that they're going to let him do what he wants with it, and Vertigo do what they want with it, and I think that's great news. Much better news than the fact that we're getting a God of War Amazon show spearheaded by the guy that gave us the god-awful Wheel of Time series. So, just making this video just to remind all of us and to remind myself that there is good news out there and that we still do have people like Cavill championing these properties and these stories and these things that we love. And I hope that this is really good and paves the way for more, just faithful adaptations and more of, I don't want stuff to be, only old fans allowed, only the people that have come before allowed. I don't want that either. I don't want gatekeeping or whatever. But I also don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, screw you to all the old fans. We're going to make all this new stuff that's only going to please the new fans. Because you know what? Here's the problem with that. a lot of these people that are saying that we can't say gypsy anymore and we have to change D&D and all these ways, they don't really care about that stuff. They're never going to be happy. You can't please them. What they really want is to push people around and boss people around. If you really want a more progressive approach to making this stuff, you will find new storytellers and you will help them make successful shows, write successful books, movies. You will support creators from a wide variety of backgrounds. You will bring them into your projects. And honestly, like something like, again, I'm going to bring up Andor. That managed to have a diverse cast. That managed to have some LGBTQ stuff in it. It had very strong and compelling female characters, and it did all of that without rubbing it in your face. That's how you do it. You don't rub things in people's face or try to pat yourself on the back for being so fucking enlightened all the time. So, that is my rant for now. Now I'm going to go work on my Avatar review because I went and saw that last night, and that's a doozy. Oh boy. All right. Peace.